What's happening, YouTube? Anthony on Power Rangers Lost the Galaxy fan film with a brand new PRLostGalaxy 2014 review on Hasbro's Power Rangers Lightning Collection in Space Ecliptor in its red mode, red form or so like to call it. But inspired by the one episode of Power Rangers in Space when Ecliptor infiltrated the Astro Mega ship to try to attack Alpha when the Rangers got trapped into the impenetrable web. You know, if you recall in that exact episode where Ecliptor went red and he destroyed the Delta Megazord and faced the Silver Ranger one last time. And it's, you know, typically that episode. That's exactly where they based this Ecliptor figure from. So this ain't going to be much to talk about. Now that I got one of the two Ecliptor figures that was released in the Lightning Collection, if only they released Cyborg Ecliptor when Ecliptor had, you know, the cybernetics. But part of it is the cybernetics when he was brainwashed by Dark Spectre, when he and Astronema were straying away a little bit from their ways of evil until they had to be pure evil by the third and final half of the show. So this is exactly where we can get as far as we can get a Red Ecliptor as possible. I mean, Ecliptor with the cybernetic parts of him as seen like on like the arms and on the chest, because this is as far as we can go getting Red Ecliptor, you know, an Ecliptor with the cybernetics. And this is the box art of how he looked. So let's take a look at Ecliptor in his fury, and let's see how dangerous and red he is. Okay, well, this review is going to be pretty quick because there's not much about Red Ecliptor I could review, but talk about a few accessories that he had in hand, like an interchangeable hand. One of the hands I had to replace to put that lightning effect piece where he's about to vaporize and zap Zane or any of the other Space Rangers. So you got these two Fury Red hands over here. Then take a look at his sword, which is exactly just the same as regular Ecliptor when I'll get around that 2-pack later on. But this is how his sword is, and actually it's pretty impressive how they sculpted the whole darn thing. I'm just like, geez, man. You know, I mind Red Ecliptor, but it kind of feels like this should have been Furio from Lost Galaxy. Be honest though, this could be our Furio proxy replacement, even though it's just Ecliptor from In Space. And I just kind of think they should have did a Furio figure, even though as much as I'm not really much of a big fan of that villain from Lost Galaxy, but this kind of figure feels like we should have gotten Furio a while ago, shouldn't we? But this figure is pretty darn decent though, but although I do like the articulation, I do like the sculpting, it's very, very, very close to how Ecliptor always looks, but in red. Yeah, but it just looks really darn cool and darn awesome came out with, and especially the lightning effect piece for him, which is pretty darn nice. So take the sword out, but let's take a look at the figure, and yeah, not bad. It's still the same Ecliptor, but all in red and silver. Very reminiscent of a certain Lost Galaxy villain if we had him in the Lightning Collection. But I do notice that this shoulder piece is rubber and will possibly come off, so be careful moving the arm around, and then that piece will likely fall off if you need be. So let's take a look at some of his articulation points real quick. You do have the abdomen crunch. Abdomen crunch is pretty darn good and smooth, even though you can hear some snapping on some joints. Then you have the elbow crunch. Elbow crunch is solid and fine on this arm, and as well as on this arm. So, well, actually, no, take that back, because due to the shoulder piece, so you're not going to really do much for those if you're going to get this figure. You're not going to really do much elbow crunching on this arm, but you can all right on this arm though, unfortunately. Let's see, leg movement. His leg movement is good, pretty good, no issues there. I don't think his figure is very lanky. This is very darn nice, even though this is one of many of the Lightning Collection's plastic free packaged figure releases, so you're not really going to have that much issue. Knee crunch is going to be complicated. It's just going to be just like this, unfortunately. Ankle pivot on this leg, and then same going on this leg too with the knee crunch. Actually, on the knee crunch you got this just right, and then the ankle pivot there. You know, I have to admit, this Red Ecliptor is not that bad, even though we could have gotten a regular Cyborg Ecliptor, even though you just took the exact same Ecliptor figure when he had the cybernetics, but just go for his Fury Red mode that he only had for one episode. One episode before Line in the Sand, aka the Tankenstein episode, and before the 2-part finale of When Zordon Died. But yeah, this was an alright figure release for Power Rangers, and particularly for Ecliptor. Well, therefore, I figured that I was not going to talk about him all that much, but other than that, I do think he was a solid addition for the Lightning Collection. Although I kind of wish that they could have, I kind of think that they really should have did a regular Cyborg Ecliptor release, because again, for all the figures I wanted to see in Power Rangers in Space in the Lightning Collection, Cyborg Ecliptor, just like a Cyborg Astronema, just like in the season. But I guess Hasbro was like, you know, let's keep putting out more MMPR, and, you know, knowing the fact MMPR and In Space have been putting out a whole bunch of figures than any other season, but, you know, due to the fact Mighty Morphin began the Zordon era, In Space ends the Zordon era, so I don't see what's the problem there. It's like they could have did more figures of like Astronema, more figures of, you know, one more figure of Ecliptor or so. We could have gotten Quantrons, we could have gotten Darkonda, we could have gotten the Psycho Ranger's monster forms, we could have gotten the Red Ranger and his Battleizer, we could have gotten the Silver Ranger and his Galactic Rover. Toys like that could have been great in the collection if need be, and would have some great updated remakes of stuff we had from back in the day, except that Astronema, Darkonda, and them didn't have action figures back in the day. But the Lightning Collection was making up for that, but I just kind of think that they really should have did more of In Space, because In Space is a very popular season, but although not MMPR popular, but it was popular in its own right among the diehard Power Rangers fandom, like which I'm a part of. But other than that, I just think this was an alright figure. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys next time with a brand new Power Rangers Lightning Collection review and other reviews to come.